It's a grizzly.
Should we get out of here?
No, we're gonna watch and listen.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Grizzly on the Hunt with Psychic Kelly Joe. Yeah, she's ready for a paranormal team, Sean. Welcome, Sean. Standing Stones, DV. Hello, everybody. Crazy Witch. Welcome, welcome. How you doing, Kelly? Can you hear me? You are muted. Let me unmute you. There you are. Your mic is muted. Nope. Try again. Your mic is muted. There you are.
All right. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you loud and clear now. Welcome to the show, Kelly. To your own show.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited about tonight.
Yeah.
Always trying to think of new things to talk about. And if anybody out there wants to talk about a subject, you can pipe up and ask about it too.
I'll see Sue.
Tonight we're going to talk about.
What are we going to talk about, Kelly?
UFOs.
UFOs.
I thought that'd be a different subject to talk about.
Yes.
Hi, Aussie Sue.
Absolutely. Hello, Aussie. Hello, Nicole. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Yeah. So, what do y'all think about UFOs? Kelly, what do you think about UFOs?
I believe they're there. I've had experiences, and why are we? Who are we to think we're the only ones here? You know, there has to be life.
Now it says. It is right. Now, if you look behind me, I got the solar system and the galaxy, ladies and gentlemen, as being a reverend. It says in Genesis, God has made creatures seen and unseen. So, yes, I do believe I've seen things that I cannot explain in the air. I have seen things that does not make sound. I have seen light beams come from the sky that hit upon the earth. And it wasn't the North Star leading me to the Jesus cradle or anything like that. That's been before my time. Crazy Witch says, sounds good. You are into UFO your entire life. That's awesome. Crazy Witch says, hi, Nicole. DV, agree. What do you think about built the pyramids? Now, what I think about that, ladies and gentlemen, that is a very good topic. Kelly, what do you think built the pyramids?
Well, I believe they did have help from outer space. I believe that they used levitation. And I believe that they shared their knowledge with them to do the building of the pyramids. And if you notice that there's connection to all the different sites all across the world, they link up. You know, anybody... Let's see, what's the name of that show? Ancient Aliens. Has anybody ever watched that show?
I'm picking up good vibrations. She sent me some good vibrations. Yep, so I do believe in that, absolutely. I believe in ancient aliens, yes, because they wouldn't have stuff on the walls if they didn't believe in stuff that flew, right?
Well, yeah, look at the archaeological digs. They found on one dig there was a gold, looked like a rocket, and a man sitting inside a rocket in petroglyphs and in a gold effigy. So,
I know, right?
You know, and a lot of times, yeah, the petroglyphs, they show things with beams coming on their heads and stuff like that. They were nugs.
That is correct. Welcome, Raven Creek Charms. Hello, peeps. Hello, Kelly Shannon Green from Yorkshire Panel Team. See, I'm getting that accent down a little better. Ain't I, Kelly? Yes. So, Kelly, are we doing that show Thursday with your dad and everybody? I hope so. RC, hi, Aussie Sue, Raven. So, yeah, So Standing Stone says, I saw a UFO at 16 with another kid, and we were about 300 feet away, and it lifted above us. And while we were sledding at Water Tower night, wow, that's interesting. There are things, yeah, good. I'm glad we are definitely doing the show, but I do believe in those things. You know what?
Oh,
What?
yeah. Like when I was a kid, we had a whole flap. I was in Michigan of UFOs. And it was all over the radio and on the news. There was about maybe 100 of them, and then there was a thing in the woods that was red and it would chase cars and chase people, and never did find out what that was. They said it was swamp gas, but it wasn't.
Yeah, swamp gas. I love it when people tell me it's swamp gas. Swamp gas does not rise into the air. Swamp gas stays on the ground, ladies and gentlemen. It has been proven scientifically. If you don't believe me, Google it. It comes out of the ground. And then if you ignite it, it goes just like a propane torch, and it blows out. Yes. It don't fly like a chariot in the sky like the biblical reference. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Now, with that being said, I'd go ahead.
And I've been in lots of places that I've had experiences myself. Like I was out in Arizona and we were driving along and we had a UFO follow 2 cars. And it lasted with us for like maybe 50 miles. It was like side by side with us. And then it just disappeared.
Yeah, no. I couldn't handle that. So yeah.
Oh,
but now
and I've had, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I've had, when I was a kid, I was visited by UFO. It did land in the field that we lived on an 80-acre farm, and it landed out by the barn. My mom didn't remember, but my aunt did. There's burn marks of a tripod out there. And these people were like the angelic ones. He had blonde hair, talk sing song, and had a silver suit that was like skin tight. It had a triangle with a swish through it, as insignia. And they had like this, it looked like I call it the eye of, a round circle with looked like horns on top of it, and it showed holographs.
Really?
Me world events before they ever happened, and it showed the conflict in 91. It showed that there would be like different diseases. They did show the plague that happened with COVID. They also showed advancements like laser beams for your eyes before they came up with that. They showed biogenic advancements. That's long before they ever came up with anything. And I was only like 16 when that happened. And then all of a sudden, I was talking to him. Then I was back in my bedroom. So
now that is crazy,
I had that happen. And also, well, I ain't making it up, and it wasn't my imagination. And I've also been followed out on State Road 29 out when you go to like Sarasota and Naples. I had a UFO that was shining a beam down, and it's like, no, I don't want to be picked up. Thank you very much. It was like a green beam. And I just said a prayer and I got home,
Now,
I had another encounter.
Wow. I'm listening.
Then I had another encounter. I was at my girlfriend's. It was in Durango. And all of a sudden, this, like, she was sleeping. I couldn't wake her up. This indigo purple blue light kept shining through all the windows of the house. And there was this hum. It was going, ear, 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 ear. And the poor cat, she had 3 cats. And I'm not making this up. They were running sideways along the walls, trying to get away from the thing. And it was shining like green beams through the house, and they had like it looked like a little probe that was running around the house. And that lasted for like maybe, an hour. And then it finally just turned off, the hum quit, and it left. That was weird. And I've always seen UFOs. You know, my mom, she saw a UFO when she was a kid. She was walking home, living up in Michigan. She was walking through the woods, and this eyeball thing, she said it looked like an eye, and it was a ball with an eye on it, and it was following her. She ran all the way home. And then one time when she was traveling cross country, she saw two beings in silver suits under an overpass. But I believe that in families we're prone, if one happens to one, it happens to the other. So there's my stories. What happened? Can't hear you. I don't know. Hang on a minute. I'll have to restart it. Can you hear me?
Now, I know what happened, ladies and gentlemen. What happened is that my dolls have been playing with my mic. My mic was absolutely turned down all the way on my mic. Now, my mic is right here. I got a separate set of volumes. And let me show you on this mic right here. So one of my dolls had to turn down my mic off my volume off this mic right here. So it was not Kelly Joe at all. It was actually me. So yes, which was very strange. Poor Kelly thinks it's her. So she'll be back on. I was just in the middle of talking. Next thing you know, I couldn't hear myself. I'm like, what in the world's going on? I have no idea. And I will let her explain to you what she has been seeing in my studio. She called me the other day and she's like, Grizzly. I'm like, what? She's like, you ain't gonna believe what's in your studio. I'm like, oh, good gracious. Now what, Kelly Joe? Please tell me it ain't Satan. Oh. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, now there is a website right there, grizzly.spiritcell.com, where you can get your T-shirts and merch, your Bigfoot coins and everything to support Grizzly. Crazy Witch Raven, hello, Crazy Witch. Hello, Brenda. Hello, Brenda back. Hello, Aussie Witch Brenda back. Hello, Brenda. Poor Kelly Joe's probably thinking of what in the world's wrong with my computer system. Everybody's saying hello, Brenda. Hello, Brenda back. Hello, Brenda. Hi, Brenda. Hi, Brenda. Kelly, good night. Night, guys. Kelly, I will see you Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. We are doing a show. DV Moon Talk Project. Yes, I love oh, really? It's even close and people disbelieve that is correct. Standing Stone. Sue, I agree. No audio, Grizz. I don't have no audio, or do I have audio? So here comes Kelly Joe. Kelly Joe, it was me. It was not you. It was me. So tell people what you called me about the other day in my studio. Tell him what you saw. Tell him that tell him you kept calling me. Are you there?
About
what you're seeing in my studio.
false.
Oh, she's freezing up.
You have a doll that brought in a negative entity, and you needed to clean your office.
And what kind of negative entity
Did you clean it?
Not yet. And what type of entity did you see? Now, this, ladies and gentlemen, will throw you for a flip.
It was
she can't even get it out.
Oogie Boogie.
Describe the Oogie Boogie. What do he look like? Are you there, Kelly?
So,
all right, tell them what they look like. Well, dang it. So we're going to get you fixed. So first off, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for everybody that donated the money to help get Kelly Jo's computer fixed. We are getting her that money. So she has saw the shadow people and the tall man with the hat. Yes. She called me frantically. Didn't you call me about the tall man with the hat?
That's not a good entity. That's a negative entity.
Yes.
That's not. Yeah.
We are going to get that money to you. I was thanking everybody that donated the money to you. So,
yes,
and speaking of that,
everybody too.
Yes, we're getting that money to you. But I wanted to play this video for everybody because I want them to know what aliens are. Because people don't want to believe grizzly. Oh, no, people don't want to believe grizzly. Ladies and gentlemen, watch this video right here for a second.
Wow,
and it's not going to play. There we go.
But I'm not. It's crazy how this waterproof, windproof, and winter insulated emergency sleeping bag can keep you warm even inside of...
Not human, get it? Something non-human, but intelligent. A non-terrestrial intelligence.
Do you believe in aliens? Extraterrestrial beings? For those of us who read the Bible, it's clear. Extraterrestrial beings not only exist, they've been here since the very beginning, since before the earth was made. Quote, "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me, if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched out the line upon it? To what were its foundations fastened? Or who laid its cornerstone when all the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy?" End quote. What this verse is saying is that when the earth was created, there was a race of beings called morning stars, or sons of God, who sang together and shouted for joy after God created it. Quote, "We may deduce two logical conclusions from these verses. First, that they are not referring to literal stars, but the sentient sons of God. And second, that these sons of God are older than the earth itself, since they were present to witness the primordial foundation." The motif of the morning stars in biblical parlance is meant to convey pre-existence and preeminence. In John's revelation, Jesus declares, quote, "I am the root and the offspring of David, the bright and morning star." While writing to the brethren in Colossae, Paul affirms the preeminence of Christ, quote, "He is the head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he may have the preeminence. As the firstborn, not only from the dead, but over all creation. Jesus is the original morning star and the preeminent Son of God. The morning stars and sons of God are children of dawn, the second born in the family of God. They represent an elder race of beings that are both pre-existent and preeminent in relationship to all others, save the Son of God himself. the first and foremost over all creation. End quote. An elder race of beings, otherwise known as angels. They were there to witness God creating the earth, and by their very definition, they're extraterrestrials. Now, we know that angels can look like people. There are instances all throughout the Bible that prove this point, the most famous one being in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 2. Quote, "Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unaware." So angels can look like humans, act like humans, sound like humans, and pretend to be humans, but deep down, they are far from human. Let's not forget that Lucifer himself is an angel.
Lucifer is an angel, a fallen angel.
December 8th, 2020. The Jerusalem Post releases an article entitled, quote, "Former Israeli space security chief says aliens exist. Humanity is not ready." Let's read it together and see what we can find. Every time this article says the word alien, I'm going to replace it with fallen angel, because that's exactly what they are. Quote, "This galactic federation has supposedly been in contact with Israel and the US for years, but are keeping themselves a secret to prevent hysteria until humanity is ready." This article is by Aaron Reich, December 8th, 2020. Has the state of Israel made contact with fallen angels? According to retired Israeli general and current professor Hayam Eshid, the answer is yes, but this has been kept a secret because, quote, "humanity isn't ready." Speaking in an interview, Eshid, who served as head of Israel's space security program for nearly 30 years and is a three-time recipient of the Israeli Security Award, explained that Israel and the US have both been dealing with fallen angels for years, with Eshid clarifying the existence of a, quote, "galactic federation." The Galactic Federation. In New Age theology, there is a group of so-called, quote, "good aliens," who call themselves the Galactic Federation of Light, or the Ashtar Command. They've been making contact with psychics and channelers for decades now, and their message is always the same. It's in direct opposition to the gospel of Jesus Christ. You see, it's the same exact lie Lucifer told Eve in the Garden of Eden. It's their calling card, and they always resort back to this promise of, "Ye shall be as gods."
The angels, the sons of God, resemble who we call in ufology the Nordics or the Pleiadians, who are these beings who very much look like us. The misconception is that the fallen angels have a different appearance than the good angels. The bad guys look different than the good guys. The good guys are these beautiful angelic beings, and the fallen angels are these grotesque, demonic-looking entities with horns, and they're the typical Hollywood depictions of demons. But that's ludicrous. That is completely illogical. These entities, these beings, hail from the same race. Every time that human beings encounter angelic beings within the biblical narrative, the description of the angels is always the same. They look like men. Indeed, Paul says that it's possible to entertain angels unawares, which means that you can confuse them for human beings. They're not human beings. They are, in fact, an extraterrestrial non-human race, a pre-existent extraterrestrial non-human race. But they are also sons of God, just like Adam was a son of God. And so it makes sense, therefore, that all the sons in the family bear the same semblance. They look the same, and they resemble their father. And it is my contention that both mankind and the elder race, the human race and the elder race, bear the image of God. There is no scripture in the Bible anywhere that states that mankind is the exclusive bearer of God's image. Rather, it just says that we were made in the image and likeness of the Elohim. And so we look like them because they are our elder siblings. We are reproductively compatible with them. So we are very similar, even physiologically, although they are of a higher nature. And so then the question is, what do they look like? And I think the answer is apparent within the canonized text of Scripture. They look like us, but with some differences. And we know that there has to be some differences because Lot was able to recognize them when they were approaching the city of Sodom. Lot saw two angels approaching and instantly was able to recognize that these were sons of God, emissaries from the kingdom of heaven. Now, how could he have recognized these angels? Because they looked human enough to where they could pass through town and be taken as exotic human beings, but they had distinctive trademarks, hallmarks that were calling cards that they were not human beings and that they were indeed angels.
This was something that we heard about and then we investigated during research for the book Exo Vaticana, which ultimately led us to the top of Mount Graham in Arizona. We were curious why. When the Vatican's Advanced Technology Telescope and the Large Binocular Telescope were being built, why did the indigenous peoples of Arizona, especially the San Carlos Apaches, why did they join environmentalists in filing dozens of lawsuits before a federal appeals court to try to stop the construction of the observations on Mount Graham? The project ultimately prevailed in favor of the Vatican and NASA after an act by the United States Congress ordered it to be done. But the question remained in our mind, why had the tribal communities fought so diligently against the construction of telescopes atop that mountain? Now, I had wrongly assumed that this was because Mount Graham was a sacred place, as in preceding generations of Native Americans had lived and died on it, and therefore it was considered holy ground, something like a graveyard. But I learned later that while that was partially true, it really wasn't the big issue. The real dispute surrounded how Mount Graham is considered one of the four holiest mountains in the world for the Apache and is considered sacred to all of the region's native peoples. And it is so because it is what we might call a stargate. In their mythos, a portal through which the star people have come since the dawn of time. And once we understood that fact, our suspicions as to why the Vatican and NASA had chosen that mountain in particular, even being willing to face a prolonged legal battle to build these telescopes on Mount Graham, including the largest binocular telescope in the world where the Lucifer device is kept, why would they have gone to all of that trouble? Why not just go to another mountain range and find basically the same height, the same environmental conditions? Why did it have to be that mountain? Now we came to learn another thing, and that is that the San Carlos Apache have these preserved ancient tales concerning Mount Graham and that geography, including stories very similar to biblical chronology. These legends involve a creator, a deceiving dragon that follows, an epic flood, and even a race of giants known as the Jindupids, who were judged and destroyed by God. According to the legend, a race of Indians called the Tartans lived in the valley between Tucson and Phoenix. These were just peaceful farmers, and they prospered until one day they were invaded by the Jindupids, described as Goliaths, who were so huge they used tree limbs for toothpicks. Well, these Nephilim were led by this massive man they call Evil Ken, who allegedly came from the northeast and were headed south to their home beyond the Gulf of Baja. These giants nearly wiped out the Tartans before they ran and hid themselves underground and in the mountains and prayed to Father Sun, who then threw this huge fireball that came down to the earth, seared the monstrous Nephilim into the scorched mountain rock and wiped them out. Now, elements of that tale are obviously mythological, but it has a remarkable thematic coherence with Genesis chapter 6. The Apache creation myth is also interesting in this regard, as a particular version involves what they call the one who lives above, who descended down over the mountain in a flying disc at the start of creation. Their myth begins, in the beginning, nothing existed, no earth, no sky, no sun, no moon, only darkness was everywhere. And then the legend starts, before noting that suddenly from the darkness emerged a disc. One side of it was yellow, the other side of it was white. It appeared suspended in midair. And within the disc sat a bearded man, the creator, the one who lives above. Now, besides this creator who rides in a heavenly disc, there's a dragon with the power of speech that turns up, bargaining with mankind, as well as supernatural gateways associated with mountains through which spirit beings have and can come. So suffice it to say that these ancient native ideas involving flying discs, flying creators, spirit guides, even owls and a talking dragon or a great serpent, and supernatural gateways tied to mountain ranges. This is something that began long before the Vatican cast its eyes on Mount Graham. Think how much these legends mirror what the Bible teaches, including the idea that mountaintops or high towers were often depicted as places where doorways into the supernatural could be opened. For instance, Nimrod of biblical fame sets out to build a tower whose top will reach into heaven, Genesis 11:4 says. This was the infamous Tower of Babel. And Nimrod was designing it so that the top of it would extend into Shamayim, heaven, the dwelling place of God. The Jewish Encyclopedia confirms several historical records that Nimrod, who it establishes was also identified by various ancient cultures as Osiris, Orion, Apollo, Gilgamesh, that he had built the Tower of Babel specifically to ascend into the presence of God, into the presence of Jehovah himself. And of course, God came down and said of the tower's design that nothing would be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do, Genesis 11:6. So in other words, according to the Lord himself, Nimrod would have accomplished what he imagined to do, and that is to build a tower whose top would reach into the abode of God. Even the name Babylon implies that, echoing the North and South American Indian beliefs about towering gateways and the meaning gate of God or gateway to God. Now, that there could be sacred locations where those beings that can see into the supernatural realm could literally walk onto a high place and enter heaven is really not as far-fetched as it sounds. There are numerous records, including in the Bible, that appear to substantiate the idea that heaven can be attained on high towers or mountainous locations. So think about Moses meeting with God on Sinai. Jesus returning atop the Mount of Olives, the 200 watchers that descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon, and other examples, including Jacob's ladder.
Okay, well, Admiral Byrd has a nephew named Harvey Byrd. Harvey Byrd did the foreword for the book Stranger at the Pentagon, who happens to be about an alien named called Valiant Thor who came to Earth. From 1957, there was a spacecraft that landed not too far from the Pentagon, about 14 miles away. Police showed up at the scene. There was a man standing there, and basically they escorted him over to the Pentagon. This man, or this entity, I should say, was here for about 3 years living at the Pentagon and working with the U.S. government. His name was Valiant Thor. Now, this is where it gets weird, because Bill Snyder's dad worked alongside Valiant Thor. And not only did he work with him, he also worked in a lot of the UFO stuff as well as exotic space materials. Now, after his dad passed away, this stuff was found in his father's attic or whatever, and he was going through it and with a couple of his friends, and they started looking into this. But Bill Snyder had already had his encounter because he worked as a geologist at the location that you were talking about, which is the Dulce location. And through me talking with Greg Renrich, that designation for the Dulce location is called S20. So just like Area 51 has S4, they all have different designations, but the one at Dulce is designated as S20. And while he was there, they were basically tunneling, building an area for an underground military base, and they actually punched through something. Now, what Bill Snyder used to say, or what he claimed, was that they knew these entities were already there. That's one of the things that aggravated and irritated him the most, was that the government knew they were there, and they allowed them to go work that in such close proximity. So when they broke through and they went down to see what was wrong with the machine that was tunneling, when they got down there, they encountered these 12-foot tall grays. And Bill said as soon as they saw them, they unholstered the weapons and they began firing. And he said that one of the entities literally threw its hand up in front of his chest like this, and he said all I saw was a blue beam. Next thing I know, I was laying on the ground. It burned his feet, had a big scar on his chest where it basically opened him up like a fish and took some of his fingers off. That was his encounter at the Dulce location. Like I said, his father and him are both tied into this. So you got all this information that his father left behind when he passed away, and Bill and his friends are going through this information. Well, one of his friends, I believe his name was Ron White, was an author, and he basically was going through all this information and was writing about it. I mean, he might have even reached out to a few people, I don't know, but not too long after that, he supposedly went out into the woods and killed himself. And after that happened, Phil Snyder became very vocal at that point. He said, I do not believe that my friend killed himself. I believe that he was murdered. And then he started going out onto circuits and was talking about this openly, what he had seen, what he was witness to. He even talked about Valiant Thor very openly. And, that was the thing, is that while he was doing this, there was 13 attempts on his life. The 14th was successful. They finally killed him. They silenced him and shut him up.
One of them did this. All I remember is that he just kind of waved his hand in front of his chest, and the next thing I know, this blue beam hit me and just literally opened me up like a fish, and burnt my fingers right off of me. And it was some form of electrical force, because the kind of like being hit by a lightning bolt burned all my toenails off of me. Crispy crittered my left foot.
Valiant Thor, like I said, he lived at the Pentagon for about 3 years. But, the story even gets really bizarre with him. Like I said, I believe it was Strangus was the gentleman's name, who actually met Valiant Thor several times and talked with him, interviewed him. The bizarre thing about Valiant Thor was he had no fingerprints whatsoever. So that led a lot of them to believe that he was a created being, possibly even an angel. That's what they referred to him as, was the angel at the Pentagon. And in fact, there's a black and white photograph of his father sitting in the briefing room at the Pentagon with Valiant Thor and several other well-known people. I mean, we know that disclosure happened in 2017. That's a given. That's when Fox News and everybody, I believe it's Tucker Carlson at Fox News, wrote the whole story about the Navy UFOs and all that. Okay, so that was the disclosure. That's when that happened. But then it came out about this $22.5 million that the Pentagon was spending on looking into the UFO thing. Okay. I understand that. But that's not where the money went. Money was actually spent at Skinwalker Ranch, because there was two different programs. There was ATIP and there was OSAP. OSAP is where everything going on at Skinwalker Ranch, where they're researching all these entities and weird, bizarre stuff that's happening, portals. In fact, one of the same gentleman that we were talking about a while ago, the Karl Marx that was on Black Vault, he actually said that these lights would just appear out of nowhere. And he said they were blinding. So they would take their hands and put them up over their eyes. With their eyes shut and their hands cupped over, they could still see the light. It was still blinding, and they could actually see the bones in their fingers. Back to what I was saying about the OSAP, that was the umbrella that was over Skinwalker Ranch, and that's where the $22.5 million went. So it was spent investigating out at Skinwalker Ranch. It was not spent on the military looking for UFOs out there. That's one thing, is they are actually starting to talk about a lot of this stuff. Like, you got the Nimitz incident that happened with the Tic Tac, and forever, the pilot, who was Top Gun pilot, worked there, was in the Navy for 20 plus years. And that's the thing, that's another one that they don't really tell the whole story. You'll hear him talk about this Tic Tac and how it was doing these maneuvers and different things. But one part that you will never hear all the other outlets talking about, which you can go and find, the Jeremy Corbell interview with him and George Knapp sitting on a stage. It's broken into 2 parts. Each part's 1 hour. He tells the whole incident from beginning to end. And the Tic Tac was just the scratching the surface. That was just the beginning.
Was there more of them, or
there was a fleet of them?
a fleet?
Yes, and you actually hear them talking about that on one of the clips. You can hear them say, "There's a whole fleet out there." Well, what he's talking about, what he goes into detail in that interview, these things were up in upper orbit. They dropped from 80,000 feet to 20,000 feet in a matter of seconds. We're talking like 2 or 3 seconds. He said they swarmed them, and that they were literally, they had to boogie and get out of there. Then you got the incident over on the eastern coast where they were talking about that they were out on a squadron. There was a squadron on this. I believe there was about 5 of them. And they're out doing maneuvers over the ocean. And they said that all of a sudden they saw what looked like a cube, but it was cloaked. We're talking that, like the movie Predator, it looked like it was cloaked. So they see this cube flying through the sky, but it looks like it has a round circle around it, and it looks like it's cloaked. And when they got close to it, they said this thing literally broke through their squadron. It flew between 2 planes, and they had to veer off like this. I would say that they're letting the military know that you don't have free range over here. We can basically do whatever we please. They were scared back in World War II. When the pilots were encountering what they called Foo Fighters. They couldn't match the velocity. They couldn't keep up with the speeds, and these things were just running circles around them. And so, you can even go back and read about the Foo Fighters. And like I said, it wasn't just American pilots. It was British pilots, all sorts of different pilots that were playing and talking about this very openly. And they were like, we couldn't match them. And I don't know what they were, but we were afraid. The American public has no clue what is going on. And like I said, when some of this stuff starts coming to light, I totally believe that this is going to time that men's hearts are going to be filling them for fear for the things that they're going to be looking upon that are coming on the earth. I believe if we're covered by the blood of Jesus Christ, that there is no fear. And like I said, that's the one thing that we can do is rebuke anything in the name of Jesus. In fact, Greg Renrich, that was one of the things that he told me. He's the one that was talking about seeing in the deep underground military bases. He said that one of the first things that they had to do before he was allowed to go into S4 or S20 or any of the others, they made him sign an affidavit saying, you're not allowed to use the name Jesus Christ in these underground facilities, not even if you stub your toe or anything. And he said that he saw 10 to 25 foot tall giants in these underground bases, and said that they were, human scientists and other people working side by side with them. He said that they even came right out and said they were the Nephilim. They came right out and said that, basically we're preparing for an intergalactic war with God. And they believe it.
Now, isn't that something, ladies and gentlemen? Isn't that crazy? Now,
Well,
what do you think about that? Kelly, what do you think about that?
I believe that there's the good, the bad, and the ugly, just like anything else. I believe that there's any manner of different entities, and I believe there's all kinds. There's the good ones and the bad ones, and You know, there's the grays that do experiments. There's the, you know, angelic ones, and there's ones that look like lizards, and there's ones that look like, I've heard, manises, and all manner of different stuff. You know, I think some of the cryptids are aliens.
Poor Lizzie. Welcome to the show, Lizzie. This is Grizzly and Psychic Kelly Joe. This is her hour or 2 hours, however she wants to claim. She is a psychic medium. And tonight we're talking about UFOs. Usually she does past lives. She does readings, all kinds of stuff. She's very interesting. She can go to a cemetery and see the spirits, play music, kids playing kickballs in their knickers, and very interesting show she has. So welcome, Lizzie. I know it's kind of weird. You got in on the tail end of rebuke in the name of Jesus Christ, but we're talking about aliens, and it is very interesting, Nicole and Raven Creek. So Lizzie, it's any type of show that you want it to be. Kelly loves to entertain. She loves the paranormal. Kelly has actually had her own encounters with UFOs. Now, being out in the country as a country kid, I've seen things as well, but not like Kelly. No, I'm a scaredy cat. I'll tell you straight up. So, yeah, I'm glad you came, Lizzie. Welcome aboard. Hopefully you join us, subscribe. We got another one coming up at 9 o'clock. Be very interesting, too. But, you know, hearing stuff like this, you know, is this the truth? Is this what we are being held back from?
You know, the Navajos, when I was out in Arizona, they called the people that came down from the sky star people.
That is true.
You know, and they would do dances. They would, you know, and they would make little Kachina dolls that were like the beings that they saw that would come down. So that's out in Navajo country, you know. And there's lots of UFOs over San Francisco peaks and out in the mesas. The Black Mesa is known to have all kinds of UFO all over there. All the mountains, they have UFO happenings, you know. So I don't discount.
What are they? What are the UFOs? That's my question. Crazy Witch, what is your definition? What do you call a UFO? I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know, sir. Because I'm lost. I don't know. I mean, are they creatures? They got to be something.
They are.
Crazy Switch says, Witch says they're space brothers too. I'm down with that. I hope they don't drink Budweiser. So, but I had to throw that in there for laughs, right? He was a straight-laced student, no drugs. Who was that? Crazy Witch? Well, I didn't say anybody was on dope now. So, but no, really, you know, what is aliens? You know, what are their purpose? You know, we see them. I love ancient aliens. I love the theories. I love how they build the pyramids, allegedly. Those big monolithic rocks. I mean, people standing on top of them built by alleged giants. I mean, now we know by record people used to live 800 or 900 years back then. But life got shortened because of depletion of oxygen. So, Sean, on my cell phone, sorry for confusion. Okay. No, so. Okay, so somebody said, Lizzie, you like UFO stuff too. What is your take, Lizzie? Let's hear Lizzie's side of UFOs. What do you think, Lizzie? What's your take? Do they come in peace? Do they mean us harm? Are they going to save the world? What is it? What do you think, Kelly? Are they here to save us?
I think that there's different groups, and I believe that there's some that have watched it forever. You know, I read a book a long time ago that we could be star seeds that were transplanted here, like a biogenetic experiment to see how we would evolve.
I
You
do
never
agree
know.
with Lizzie.
Well,
So let's take Kelly's theory for a minute, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I've said this on other shows. Have I or have I not? Is it not our cycle to be wiped out once again, like other civilizations, like the Mayans, the Incas? What about that one civilization that's supposed to be so far well advanced, Atlantis? The technology that they acquire, what happened to them? So,
blew
what's
themselves
going
up.
on? Yeah, right. So,
They suck.
no, Grizz. I was with when we saw the UFO. Oh, okay, Standing Stones. I saw you. Okay, I got you now. So he was not hallucinating. I got you. I apologize. I read that wrong. You got to remember, I read wrong and I read so fast. Crazy witch. Some are alien beings from different planets. Some, I don't know. Some could be different kinds of fairies, etc. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you ask Grizz, does he believe in fairies? Absolutely. They do exist, ladies and gentlemen. We got a debate on this on another show. Fairies they do exist. Have I seen them? Yes. In person? No. They do. Where do you think orbs come from? So.
And also I had an old man friend that believed in them, and he kept talking about the men in black. They'd come visit you. You know, the guys with the suits and the black cars and the black hats, and you couldn't talk about it if you said something wrong. Yep.
No, man, this show's been flagged so many times. We got secret agencies that's already been, they're watching us right now, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. So, but no, she's right. Last year, I never forget. Yep. A friend of mine called me. He was like, dude, what did you just do? And I'm like, what do you mean what I just do? He's like, I just got a call from CIA. And I'm like, what for? I don't know. What'd you do? I'm like, I just got off the show. He's like, well, that figures. What was the subject? And I told him, he's like, oh, hell no, you did not, Grizzly. I'm like, oh, hell yes, I did. So do they monitor? Yes, they do. That's why there's a lot of things not on YouTube and Facebook.
Absolutely, Atlantis blew up because they corrupted it and they exploded it. Yeah, kaboom. We'll have to talk about Atlantis. We'll have to talk about Atlantis another time too.
Do you think they ever found Atlantis?
I think parts of it. I think it spanned all across. I believe that there's off Bimini Coast. That's for another show, but yeah. I got some stories about Atlantis.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am on Pocahontas on this one. I can't wait to hear this. Brenda, some of them are peaceful, some of them are not so good. I think our government has stuff to make us that there are UFOs. Absolutely. I think the government has. Well, now, let me tell you something. Now, you look at my studio for an example. Now, this is what we call Captain Caveman technology compared to what the government has. You know that, ladies and gentlemen? We know that from beyond a reasonable doubt. We know that. So, but can you imagine the technology they do? Now, 130 years ago, we were still on a horse and buggy with leather whip and a pea shooter and muzzle loaders. Where all this stuff come from? We got it from somewhere, ladies and gentlemen. Raven Creek, I love ancient aliens and all the ancient archaeology, ancient structures, and the AA crew. What's the AA crew? From the ancients, and I stay from Gigor's hair. Yeah, there we go. Gigors. Yeah, Gigors. Nicole. Maybe they could have dimensional beings. Yes, I do believe in that. I do believe in interdimensional.
I believe that. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
And I also believe that they do have, our government has technology from other beings, outer space, So, yeah.
Oh, I do believe that. Yes.
Well, I
Crazy
thank
Witch
everybody.
says, before I let you go, what if there was an advanced ancient human species separate from us, smarter and bigger? I think there is, and I think they're watching us. I think they're playing zoo. No, that's just my theory. So, but I do have to let Kelly go. She's probably got a tea party to go to, don't you, Kelly?
Yep. Have a good night. Thanks for having me. And I'll see you next week. And have a great weekend.
And everybody from coast to coast and around the world. And next week, we're going to talk about Atlantis. And she froze.
Yeah.
Next week, Atlantis. All right. Take care, ladies and gentlemen. Love you. I'll see you at 9 o'clock. Bye-bye.
It's a grizzly.
Should we get out of here?
No. We're gonna watch and listen.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
Oh, shit, should we run?
No.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
Oh, shit, should we run?
Okay. It's a grizzly.
Are you sure it's not Chipmunk? Action. No, I'm out of here. Action.
It's a grizzly.
I'm out of here.
Huh. Maybe it is a chipmunk. Shh. It's a grizzly.
Are we gonna die?
I don't know. We're just going to sit here and listen and watch.
Let's get out of here, maybe.
Fall!